Republican Senator John Barrasso of Wyoming was among that group of senators. Remember, we had this on the morning after this had happened, and I started talking with senators, Marsha Blackburn, the first of them. Well, I had previously seen Senator Barrasso at an event at the convention, and this had just happened. And so now let's go deeper with his impression of Kimberly Cheadle as she literally ran away from him. Senator, you're with me now. No one had anticipated from your group of senators that she would even be at the RNC convention.
Well, you're absolutely right, Harris. And, thank God that President Trump is still alive.
Amen. But we did lose someone that day.
We did. Tragedy. He was a hero protecting his family. It's about time. It's past time that she resigned. Should have happened a week ago. We still need all of the answers, as you were just talking about with Congressman Biggs. We have to make sure that security failures like this never happen again. You're right. There's been no accountability in this administration from Afghanistan to what has just happened now all across the board. You saw the bipartisan outrage yesterday in the committee. What had happened at the convention is 4 senators, senior senators, when we found out that she was at the Republican convention in Milwaukee, we wanted to go and talk with her because we had been on a conference call, all 100 senators, earlier in the day, and she was supposed to answer questions then, but she didn't. She stonewalled. She didn't give us information, and we thought maybe we could just ask simple questions that all the American people had, like, how did the shooter get onto the roof? Why wasn't the roof a protected area? Why, when this person was identified as a threat 11 minutes before they allowed President Trump to go onto the stage, why in the world would they allow him to go up on stage if they knew there was a threat right there? All of those answers we still need to have, but it was a complete breakdown. And I'll tell you one other thing, Harris. Talking with some Secret Service agents, they feel that they had not had good leadership from the top with her. They think their leadership had failed them. There were Secret Service agents on the stage that day who were ready to take a bullet to protect President Trump. This is not about the men and women in the field. This is about the leadership, who, of course, was one of the Biden family favorites. And that's how the Biden administration has done things.
I have to lean into that. You said you've been talking with agents, and they've told you they did not feel they had good leadership. What is the chain of command like when your boss is not leading? Like, what were their options at that point? And now we know that a lack of really efficient and competent leadership may not have completely led to what we saw 10 days ago with an assassination attempt on a former president, but it certainly wasn't helping.
No, it undermines their own hardworking individuals in the field, their own confidence in the leadership that they're under, and you have to have confidence in your own leadership, and they didn't have it.
Where does the next leader come from now? I'm sure that senators and House members, all of you have to be looking at who's next because it's critical. We are 106 days away, 105 days away from Election Day in this country. And we've already had an attempted hit on a former president, one of the candidates. What about protection going forward? Who will lead this? Any ideas?
I'm not sure. There are going to be obviously the continued committee hearings in the Senate to make sure that someone is there who can do the job capably. It's a presidential appointment,
right.
So the president, who is clearly not up to doing the job today, is going to be in charge of making that appointment. But remember, up until last week, even Robert F. Kennedy didn't have Secret Service protection. And I thought that was a mistake and an error in the judgment of the leadership of the Secret Service.
That's not acceptable on his behalf. I mean, look at what happened with his family and all the service that they gave this nation, and they wouldn't provide for RFK Jr. It's almost like on purpose they just followed her lead, and she was not good at her job. But she's gone now. And
President Trump needs and deserves whatever kind of Secret Service protection that Vice President Harris, who's now going to be the nominee, is getting, whatever President Biden's getting. Donald Trump needs that 100% level of full protection, not just as a former president of the United States, but
right.
also as the Republican nominee for president. He needs that full protection.
Let me ask you this. Does something need to change? And maybe you can't change the appointment process from president to the leader of the Secret Service. But when that person's job then feathers out to someone who's competing with the current president, should there be more of a checks and balance in Congress on the Hill for how those decisions are made to protect that candidate, because clearly what we have is not working.
Yeah, I believe that should be Harris. Right now, this is not a position confirmed by the United States Senate, where we do a confirmation vote. Maybe we ought to look at that to make sure that no matter who is in the White House, that the Secret Service director is someone who certainly has their confidence, but also has the confidence and has gone through to make sure that they have the leadership abilities and the ability to oversee the kind of training that our protective force needs to have.
Senator John Barrasso of the great state of Wyoming, I appreciate this conversation, as there is breaking news now, and getting your perspective is very helpful on this, because you saw her face to face, and
she ran.
And she ran.
4 senior senators who just had questions to ask that every American has had that day after President Trump was shot.
Well, in the military, we call it AWOL. Now she's gone completely. She's resigned. Senator, thank you.